I've been smoking weed longer than most people have been alive. Get out of Get out.
This is crazy.
This is just crazy. This is crazy.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project. This is Brainstorm, broadcasting live from 3835 Elm Street in Denver, Colorado, from the Dank Studios. Here it is, the Grind and Burn Show. We support this show by selling products for our sponsors. We do that through the Cannabis Community Store, and I want to encourage you to check it out because we have some great products there. This show is brought to you live every week by the support of our sponsors, and we want to return the favor by letting them know our listeners are there for them. www.cannabiscommunitystore.com or go to the website cannabiscommunityproject.com. Check. We gotta check this or what? Hey, Cannapreneurs, how's it going? Brainstorm here. It's been a while since I've checked in with you personally live on a Saturday afternoon. I just want to give you a little update to what's going on, let you know about the transition, the changes, what to expect, what not to expect, what won't change, and what may change, but for the better. So hang on with me, and let me just start at the beginning with a big thank you to all of you who have hung out with me week after week, building this audience, having the conversation with me, listening in to me rant on, rave on, and bring forth a community that may not be what you were expecting in the cannabis community. So I start out with a thank you to all of you. Thank you for being part of the Cannabis Community Project. Now, for those of you who are hanging out week to week, know I have stated I am in a transition. I am attempting to make a career shift into a very, I would say, different form of career. It's going a little bit slower in the licensing process. Is taking longer than expected. No, I'm not a criminal on the run, a wanted felon. It's just government bureaucracy. So that's holding things up. But here's ultimately what's going to happen. I'm going to keep producing the show, but I may be doing less and less of actually on-air segments and hosting. I'm going to let more people from the community step in, and anybody that is out there who has a passion to be in cannabis and media, I have an offer to the general public, and this offer is not the same as the one I offered before about being a host and hosting segments and doing all the things that a few people have come and gone. Like I said, there's a very difficult vetting process, and usually that process is against yourself. Can you actually do the work that is needed to get the job done? No special requirements, no special skills, just simply do the work. Many tried, most failed. Kate is still hanging in there, hanging in strong, submitting segments, doing great job, reaching out to the community, interviewing great people, doing her best to follow the format and bring forth her version of the Cannabis Community Project. And I thank her, I applaud her, and I tip my hat. I tip my joint, I tip my bud, I raise my glass, and I'm not even sure if I'm even on a right metaphor there, but thank you once again, is what I'm coming back to full circle. It's all about the thank you, the gratitude. So the show will move forward one way or another, whether I myself, together with partners, somebody else taking over the majority. The Cannabis Community Project will not die. It will go forward. But I, Brainstorm, may take on a different role. As many of you know, as I revealed before, moving into the private investigation industry and going to explore the cannabis side of private investigation, and generally probably it'll just turn out to be HR and insurance. But where you start somewhere, and I encourage you, if you are thinking about starting a business, whatever it may be, in whatever fashion, probably listening to this show to start a cannabis business. But if you have any business, take action now, because there is no perfect time. There is no waiting until the right time. There is only what you are doing right now. Whatever you are doing right now for the majority of your time is who you are and what you are. So get up, get that business registered, get that business plan put together. Forget about becoming a full-time fundraiser. Just get out there and sell your product or your service, whatever that business may be. So officially, the Cannabis Community Project is up for sale. In layman terms, it's up for sale to anybody who would like to take over as executive producer, who would basically like to buy the rights, the brand, the archives, the materials, the files, and all other assets and properties of the Cannabis Community Project and all its entities, domain names, websites, and everything else that goes along with it. It is for sale for a very reasonable rate, because I am using it as my crowdfunding, as my startup money into my new career. So I'll hang out and teach you how to produce a podcast, and for a very reasonable dollar amount, somebody out there can buy up and become the next Brainstorm, or whoever you would like to call yourself. You can be the owner and director of this media outlet, the Cannabis Community Project. I'll show you how I did it, and then you can take control and take it on your own and build this community to where you think it can be. Think about it, community, and then reach out and talk to me about it. All right, that's all that's going on. We're not getting deep. We're not saying goodbye. I'm just letting you know what's going on. Thanks for hanging out with Kate. Thanks for hanging out with anybody else that has guest hosted or done a segment or filled in or thrown their hat in the ring. I thank all of you who have given it a try. It's not easy, and even doing what you did was very grateful. So thank you for your time, and thank you for trying, for the few of you who actually did give it a try. We'll see who comes in the future who also will try to be part of the Cannabis Community Project. But rest assured, every Saturday at 4:20, we'll be right here with you, talking about the issues of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, a cannapreneur, a person living in the United States of America. America! Fuck yeah!
Grab a hold of me, 'cause everything is gonna be alright.
Have you ever seen a business or a product and thought, what a sack of shit that is? I could do a better job. Well, let us help you get there. Make 2017 your year of cannapreneurism. Contact me directly, brainstorm at cannabiscommunityproject.com.
Feeling guilty about a time with cannabis? Get it off your chest and confess it on Cannafessions, your public forum to absolve your soul.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I have a funny story. 1972, my first husband and I were driving around with some friends, and we were smoking a joint. And I wasn't used to smoking weed at the time. I was new at it. My husband handed me a joint from the front seat, and I thought he was passing me his cigarette, because we shared a cigarette often. And he passed me a joint, and I took a hit off it and threw it out the window. Oh, shoot, man, I just thought it was a cigarette that he had passed me. My bad. But it was pretty funny.
And that was Cannafessions. If you have a confession to make, contact me.
via Facebook or the website at cannabiscommunityproject.com.
Give it to my people, cause I know that they be rising above. To our creator, giving life under the sky above. To our suppliers, we hold the key and that be setting us free. For all with ears to hear, the truth is yours if you believe. Born to a world with daughters suffering, supporting the greed, and honest people getting robbed by the people they feed. Living in a world where we waste, pollute, and still ask for more. And conscious people planting trees, but they are ignored. And tell me, what does it take to set it straight and start over again? Before it's too late, I know it's possible, my friends. Listen close, your mind to come at ease. Open up inside to come at peace. Cause when it all boils down, the last shall be the first. When it all boils down in time, we all will learn.
Hello, this is Ray.
Hey, Ray. Here in Denver, Cannabis Community Project. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I am Ray Greeny from 710 Consulting.
Yeah, excellent. You said you're at your desk. Does that mean you're working right now?
Yeah, I am actually. I have a regular desk job, so I'll kind of give you, just a quick little blurb. I live in Illinois, of course, in Chicago. We do have a program here, and it's a little interesting, to say the least. Some people have even said that it's failing, but it still is not real safe. And I know you've heard that from a couple of your other guests. There's still a lot of people that are afraid to come out of their shells, myself somewhat included. I mean, obviously I'm pretty active in the community and in the industry, but it's still something that I even struggle with a little bit just because it's really not as accepted here yet.
You're talking about coming out where your employer, what you do now, knows what you're involved in?
Yeah, I believe that my employer does know, what I'm up to. I mean, obviously they know, but I'm just talking about in general. Still, it's kind of like a weird state. We're still a little paranoid, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. I don't even know. But that's kind of my investment. I rep a couple of brands, out east. I just picked up Pure Pressure. I'm sure you've heard of them, Pure Pressure rosin presses.
What do you do? What's your core? Are you working as an independent somewhere? Are you working for a company?
Yeah, no, I work independently. I work pretty much independently as far as this industry is concerned. My day job is I'm an executive financial recruiter, which is really a funny way of just saying that I'm a headhunter for stockbrokers and bankers and accountants.
That's so ironic. That's the dude I just interviewed last week that's coming out tomorrow, Rick Binder. He's also a recruiter in the cannabis industry. Coincidentally, just interviewed him last week. So that'll be good. You'll want to listen to that one. So you're involved in the compassionate care program that you referenced.
Yeah, well, it's that my mother has MS. I'm going through the system here, and I've just noticed, a lot of interesting things like pricing. Live resin is as much as $70 a gram out here.
Yeah.
So the prices are just astronomical. There's only about 17,000 patients, as I understand it. Some experts have even said that the program here is failing.
I mean, $70 a gram is not that far off from what you would find in a recreational center here in Colorado. You'll find for live resin anywhere from 50 on up, sometimes even more. From a medical standpoint, you can get your concentrates from shatter to wax all the way up to the rosins and stuff, anywhere from, I would say, 25 to 35 to 55 is where you're going to see most of your shatters and waxes, and then above 65 is typically where you're going to see your rosins and all those kind of real new extracted type ways of extracting stuff. But from a price standpoint, it's not that far off. But from a price standpoint of a medical prescription bill, I mean, it depends on what you're comparing it against. I know there's some states that are really, really expensive, but here in Colorado, that's about the average pricing you'll find too for a lot of this concentrate stuff. Anywhere from, I would say, the average would be 35 to 55, and then and that's for most kind of waxes and shatters type stuff. Yeah, I mean, the pricing, if you get pricing below that, it's probably going to be somebody's homebrew extraction.
Oh, really?
Which is a whole nother question. The whole industry of extraction has really grown up over the last 3-some years. And now there's some pretty high-tech machines that do some pretty high-tech extraction. And it just depends on what you want to pay for. Do you want to pay for a dude in his backyard pushing butane through a sock? Or do you want to pay for a guy who spent $1 million on a triple wash, extraction machine where he's giving you 100% pure blah, 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 whatever you're getting. And that's usually where the price difference is that you'll see that if you're getting anything cheap, I would really question the source of where it's coming from.
Well, everything that I've gotten thus far, has been, of course, through legal means. It just seems interesting to me.
What kind of pricing were you expecting to pay?
I don't know. I figured probably between, I guess, $50, would be about what I would expect.
For a gram?
Yeah.
Of concentrate?
I think of concentrates. I just feel like overall it's just interesting here. You mentioned, home stuff. That's not even an option here for our patients.
Well, it's not an option here either. It's a felony, but that's where the industry came from. I mean, that is where extract came from. That was just literally a couple years ago where that's the only place you could get extract is from people in their own private, little tubes and stuff that were making. This whole thing in Colorado of the professionally licensed extract facility is just in the last 2-3 years. That's where it came from.
Right, totally. Absolutely. I was just talking about how we don't even have a plant count.
That sucks because
which
makes
is
it
a
hard.
little rough.
It makes it hard because most patients that are in those extreme cases of cancerous type illnesses, they're going to need some highly concentrated either edibles or concentrates or oils. Unfortunately, you just need high plant counts to get that kind of quantity. And when you limit people to the 6 and 12 plant stuff, it's just, or have no plant count, so it's just ambiguous and nobody knows what to do. It makes it impossible to do anything except have flour, and flour has its benefit, but if you're talking from a medicinal standpoint, you really have to get into extracts and concentrates through oils and edibles.
Agreed.
Yeah. What do you got? Are you a patient? Are you a rec user?
I'm actually a caregiver.
Okay.
So they do have a caregiver program, where I can basically help my mom out. Like I said, it's a little sketchy here, and she doesn't feel totally comfortable registering herself.
Right.
That's really the reason.
As like a what? Registering as a medical marijuana patient?
Yes. She's kind of old school as far as her thought process, and it still sketches her out a little bit. The idea of being on a list. I mean, you remember what it was like in 2012 in Colorado, and everybody, or even previous to that, everybody being sketched out to, sign up for the card.
Right. Well, the ironic thing about that is because I remember having conversations is that, yes, you're putting yourself on a list, but by putting yourself on that list, you're protecting yourself from various legal actions that can be taken against you. I didn't look at it as a catch-22. I looked at it as almost a protection that you put yourself on the list, because now you're protected under various constitutional law as a patient. Whereas if you're not on that list, you're just a dude who has weed. And that's a whole different classification of who you are and how you're dealt with by law enforcement and courts. And even though a recommendation is not any legal form of medical prescription, there is still constitutional law protecting patients here in Colorado. So by putting yourself on that list, to me, it was, and that was the whole reason why I signed up for it, because I want it to be under those protections versus just a citizen of the state trying to acquire cannabis.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why edibles and topicals are perfect for older people, because they don't have to smoke
Agreed.
stuff. They can just eat stuff or take oils, tinctures, and that kind of stuff where they can feel less smoky with the whole smoking type stuff. Sometimes even vape pens are good. Those tiny vape pens.
Yeah, the cartridges, those little cartridge things.
Yeah. Although personally, like I personally just mostly, I would say 98% of all my consumption at this point is dabbing.
Sure.
Mostly wax and shatter. I mean, I've moved away from the flower, and I'm thankful that I have, because from just a physical health standpoint, it's cleared up a lot of inflammation issues with mucus in my throat and constant kind of that hacky in the lungs and the wheezing in the throat of smoking flower a lot. Honestly, it just wasn't as pure as what I needed to intake my THC. I'm on dabbing now, but I mean, good luck trying to get somebody that's above the age of whatever to fire up a dab rig. So the only thing I don't like about vape pens is it's not the same effect as getting a vaporized high concentrate dose like a dab, where vape pen is kind of that low burn, slow intake, which is a different effect. And personally, I think if somebody's truly suffering, like in the moment of some pain suffering, you need a high dosage of intake, which really only comes when you heat up a torch and light up a nail. Drop a dab of shatter or wax or something on there and get that high impact instant rather than the slow vape pen. I don't know. Moms are weird. I try to give my mom shit all the time, and sometimes she takes it, sometimes she doesn't. I don't know. But it sucks. I have friends with MS, and I know it's a shitty disease. Here in Colorado, actually, has a very high population of women specifically with MS. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre thing. The other thing that I'll say about my mother is that she was diagnosed with MS about 25 years ago. And during that time, she was also teaching yoga classes a lot. 2-3 times a week, she was teaching classes. Basically, she also hated and refused the steroids and all the horrible pharmaceuticals that they, try to force you into. I mean, they even use scare tactics. Well, if you don't take these in 5 years, you could be in a wheelchair, and in 10 years, you could lose function, most of your functionality and regular bodily functions, and in 15 years, you could be gone. It was pretty scary, and she refused to do it because she said she didn't like how it made her feel. She was tired all the time. She felt depressed, and she was, of course, a consumer previous. It's amazing because now 25 years later, she still has full mobility and all of her function. It's pretty unbelievable because even her doctor, who has been, kind of against it the whole time, which is another thing the Illinois fight, just recently they said, wow, we're really glad that you didn't take the steroids. And the reason is because had you done that, we would have thought it was the steroids and the prescriptions that were working, and we would have continued to prescribe it to other patients and just continue the cycle. And you see what I'm saying? They're so glad because she's been able to maintain basically her original starting diagnosis, the same condition for 25 years by consuming.
That's what you need to tell her when she's apprehensive about taking it or being discovered or outed. is building the pride in being outed, as in you should be a leader. You know, you're a patient. You're a living patient, and a living patient that could help others. So instead of hiding where it's information unknown, you should be out front in the light as a leader and let it be known to all so others can be helped. Usually once you pass a certain age, then it's like, who cares? You know, what, do you have a career to worry about? I mean, how old is she? I mean,
No, she's certainly of retirement age. You know, if you ask her how old she is, she's been 26 for the last 30 years.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, times are changing all over the place. So that's why so many people are moving to Colorado. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people every year coming here for that exact same reason, because they're looking to go to a state that they don't have to feel, you know, paranoid.
They don't have the fear.
Yeah, fear, and scrutinized and looked down upon, or somehow just fear that they're going to be at a loss for participating.
Sure.
Illinois, Colorado, what is that, 8 hours driving, 10 hours?
Yeah, it's a little bit more, but it's about that.
Just
think it's like
avoid Nebraska. Don't drive through Nebraska. They're a stickler, that state. They'll see you coming and going from Colorado, and they'll pull you over.
I've heard that they're pretty tough on traveling.
Yeah.
Traveling people through their state with out-of-state plates.
Have you considered growing yourself, like just helping her out by doing a little home grow for her in the basement?
Well, yeah, you know, and that's something. It's still a sensitive topic, you know, in this area. But yeah, you know, I'm not saying that I have or haven't, but yes, that is certainly something that can supplement and help that situation out.
Or just move to Colorado.
You know, so. Yeah, I mean, that really would be awesome. Actually, I spent about 10 years in Grand Junction, which I know still doesn't, to my knowledge, still is a dry county, quote unquote.
What do you mean a dry county?
I don't believe the city of Grand Junction, actually I know that the city of Grand Junction does not allow dispensaries in their town.
Yeah, I don't know about Grand Junction. I know they have an office, an MED office, an enforcement division branch in Grand Junction for all MED badge people that live on the west side of the state to go to. So I don't know. It
definitely makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if that's for all the surrounding counties or what. I don't know specifically about Grand Junction, but it's a nice place, good place. What's your aspirations? What are you looking to do to get out of what you're doing and get into cannabis, or what's your goal?
Honestly, that is, you know, I've always wanted to do this. I've always been involved. My family's always been involved. You know, this is not just a first generation thing. Actually 3 generations of my family have, you know, cards and do different things. My grandmother, you know, has topicals. My aunt uses various things. You know, I'm helping out my mother. It's something that I've always been really passionate about, and up until recently, it was not something that I could really openly talk about or something that I could openly share, people that I could openly network with. So it's been really exciting for me to finally be able to talk to people about it. It's kind of ironic because I lived in Grand Junction, or in Colorado, you know, 2002 to like 2012, and it was a little different scene. But still, as you know, I mean, I'm sure, you know, you were out there, right, during all that?
Yeah, I got my card in 2010, my patient card. In Colorado, just like in California, the medical laws have actually existed since the beginning of 2000. The unknownness about it was because it was virtually impossible to start any type of business. It was all based on the caregiver program, which were just small pockets of individuals handling small pockets of patients, growing and doing that type of stuff. It was when Obama came into office and sent the Attorney General, the basic intention was to not really mess with states that wanted to pursue their own laws in marijuana. Is really when everything exploded, because that's when the dispensary started to be formed from a state level. That's when the states, at least here in Colorado, I can't speak to any other state, but that's when the state really said, you know, it's time to take these caregivers and either make them step up or get them out. And that's pretty much what happened is those who were able to step up turned into dispensaries, and those who couldn't faded off. And we don't really have we don't have a caregiver program really anymore. I mean, maybe technically it does exist on the books, but I don't know. It would be hard to find a caregiver that wasn't a dispensary. I mean, I'm sure there are groups of people that have long term, hey, since 1978, this dude's been growing my weed for me type caregivers. But for any patient today, like right now, if you were to get your card and go to try to find an individual caregiver, you couldn't find one. You would have to know somebody already or go to a dispensary, which, good and bad. It's more business now. It's more regulated. It's bigger. It's a little more everywhere. Yeah. You lost the intimate caregiver program.
Sure.
I'm sure every state will go through the same cycle.
It probably will.
Yeah. If your whole family is involved in cannabis in some form, then it sounds like you guys as a family unit should really think about which state you can function as a cannabis unit. I don't know if Illinois allows that, but there's definitely a couple states where you don't have to be a dispensary to be involved in cannabis. Colorado and Oregon and Washington and soon California and probably a couple others popping up here and there.
Yeah, and actually I've thought about, of course, doing that and relocating. It's just, I think at this point, and at least my additional extended family's lives, it's probably not as much of an option. But I'm certainly open to the idea of relocating or going back. My question is, isn't it possible that the industry is eventually going to reach out east, and these sorts of jobs will be created here eventually, or is that just wishful thinking?
Do you consider yourself the East in Illinois there? Are you considered the East?
Well, I consider myself, let's just say east of the action.
Or like Art Bell says, west of the Rockies, east of the Rockies.
Yeah, I always kind of consider the Mississippi River kind of, that's when you start getting pretty east. But
New York City.
For me, it starts getting fun when you start looking at the mountains.
Right. Well, I mean, if anybody thinks anything different than that, it's going to keep spreading state to state. They're crazy, right? I mean, the only thing that's going to happen will be like maybe a Utah situation, like where you can't really find alcohol and they have all these rules where it's kind of going against the grain of everybody else. I'm sure there'll be those states that do that.
Sure.
There'll be a few states here and there that just refuse and hold out till the very end. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, you'd be crazy to think that it's not. But here's the question. It's not, is it going to happen? It's when is it going to happen?
It's when.
Because like, the great economist John Maynard Keynes says, we'll all be fine in the long run, but in the long run, we're all dead. It's So, I mean, how long are you willing to hold out before, the tidal wave comes to Illinois? I guess is the question.
Yeah, that's agreed. But here's another question that I have, and this is a genuine question. As far as the industry is concerned, are you seeing that there's a decent, pay scale?
No. I mean, what do you mean by decent? Are you going to make anything above minimum wage or just high minimum wage? No,
yeah.
No, not by trying to get a job at a dispensary. No. If you want to be an entrepreneur, yeah, absolutely. Create a product or a service and go out there and, make your stake in the world. But if you just want to get a job at a dispensary, expect, high minimum wage. Whatever minimum wage is, take it up 20-25%, and that's going to be the medium, wage that you're going to make. Here in Colorado, it'll probably be somewhere between 12 and 20, maybe 25. And then maybe some managers are making, above that by a small percentage. But
sure.
I don't think there's any real jobs. Like if you're an engineer, you're going to come sliding into the industry at a $200K a year. I don't know. But hey, I just talked to this recruiter dude last week, Rick Binder, who's also on LinkedIn.
he's been doing this, and he's getting into the cannabis industry, and he is under the impression that he can sell corporate jobs, C-level jobs to the industry for 100, 150, 200K a year type salary jobs. And he's going to focus in on accounting and finance type jobs, and that's his thing. You know, he does have a vision that in cannabis there will be those type of jobs where if you're a C-level this or a C-level that, you might be able to find a good high-level job at a dispensary somewhere running the corporate accounting or finance or recruiting or HR or something else. But if you're just Joe Schmo trying to break into the business and you're maybe going to be a bud tender or maybe some grower assistant, minimum wage, as I say, minimum wage is not a dollar amount. Like in our state, the minimum is $9.13 or something like that. That's just the floor of minimum wage. But minimum wage goes all the way up to like $20, $25. So if you're making somewhere between $9 and $20 an hour, you're still making minimum wage. You're just on that scale of whether you're on the low end or reaching the higher end of it. That's pretty much what the industry is going to offer you, is some scale of minimum wage, either at the high end or the low end. If you want to break through that, you got to kind of be an entrepreneur, and you need to have your own idea. So do you have an idea?
Well, I'm doing a few different things. Really what I'm trying to do is kind of, represent some of these brands that are out west, east of the Mississippi. So we do have a scene here. Like I said, it's not as sexy, obviously. But there are some serious players out here in the East that have invested ridiculous amounts of money into these facilities, and these operations are massive, crazy, multi-million-dollar facilities, and they're running at like 10% right now because the need isn't there yet.
Right, like grow facilities you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about the facilities and what they have going on. A lot of these companies, one of which is like Cannabis. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
But they're Illinois and New York, because believe it or not, New York has some stuff going on. So they're investing heavy into those markets. Now, whether or not those markets pop in the next couple of years or the next 5, 10 years, who knows? But they're heavily invested in this, and they believe that it's going to take off.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do, since I am out here in the East, and it's difficult for me to get involved on the ground floor, I'm getting involved with various companies and trying to, help spread their name out here. For some of these companies like I said, like Pure Pressure, that rosin presses out in Denver area there, and had some honorable mentions even in Terpenes and Testing magazine as one of their, top machines. Bovita packs and some different hydration packs. I was working with a curing machine, but they're commonplace out where you guys are. But out here, it's a little bit more of a select market. It's a much more difficult sell because we only have 4 or 5 producers out in Illinois, so it's not quite as, the market's not as hot.
Right.
So it's not like I'm sitting here, wanting to be an employee of Pure Pressure or working with Collier Farms, stuff, but it's just that I want to help people out west move east and try to also help kind of create that market out here and get people fired up about it and normalize it and make it more accessible to everybody.
So what would be the category? Like if you had to pick a word category of what you're wanting to do, what's the single word category?
I guess I would say, marketing, sales.
Okay.
I right now I'm just trying to put the right people together. Like I said, I had a conversation actually just last week with the guys at Pure Pressure, and I said, look, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm going to sell $1 million worth of product for you guys, but what I am going to do is I'm going to call these places and I'm going to talk to them about your products, and not necessarily, because I'm not qualified. And I said, I understand that, I'm not claiming to be an engineer or a technician like you guys, like no way. But, perhaps I can put you into contact with my childhood friend who's the controller of, a grow-op and 2 dispensaries.
So, if I can summarize, are you saying you want to be an outsourced sales company? So a company can hire you and your team to sell their product for some amount of time as an outsourced
and it's
third
not
party?
even just an amount of time, because out here, again, the market is so new and fresh and small that, at this point, I think more or less what I'm trying to do is just keep putting the names out there, the big names from out west, keep pitching them out east, and keep getting some face time so that when the market does explode, everybody knows who we are already.
But when you say who you are, you mean who you are as a sales company or who you are as the products that you're representing to sell?
Both, really, because, I believe that especially in this industry, it's about partnerships, and it's about networking, and it's about who you know and who you talk to, and and that sort of thing. So there's still a lot of that hey bro kind of mentality in this industry, perhaps, as far as friends hire from friends, friends talk to friends, friends buy from friends. So I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to connect the dots. I'm trying to introduce some people over here to people over there, especially on these products, like I said, like these advanced, closed loop, extraction units. I'm not qualified to speak intelligently about those.
Yeah.
But what I can do is I can say, hey, I got a friend, in Ohio who makes these pretty darn well.
Right.
You guys should chat.
Exactly. Well, hey, bro, I mean, if you're looking to sell stuff, I got a guy you should talk to. I mean, the thing is that honestly, sales jobs are like probably the number one needed job in the industry. So if that's what you're out there looking to put as your product, your service, is that you're a salesperson or a sales company, you would have no difficulty, 0% difficulty having many, many inquiries. The only problem you find is people who are willing to give you money as some type of retainer type business. Let me give you some unsolicited advice. Don't do the percentage of sales up front. Do a retainer and a flat fee and work into percentage as the relationship grows. If you start, you're going to have 1,000 people approach you wanting you to sell their crap, and they're all going to want you to do it for free based on commission up front, which means you're going to put a whole bunch of free time and work up front for a bunch of half shitty products. The best way to eliminate those would be my unsolicited advice to you is to make people pay a retainer or some type of fee up front, covers some good healthy amount that makes somebody really get a stake in what you're doing by bringing you on board.
Wow, that's the first. I really appreciate that. That's a great piece of advice, because right now, I'm just calling on friends, and you know what I mean. I'm a pretty casual guy. I'm an aggressive salesperson.
What's your credentials? Give me your background.
Oh, okay. Well, I was a financial operations manager for Harley Davidson, which basically means that I ran Harley dealerships.
America.
Yeah, so I was all about, pushing tin, selling Harleys, man. That was it, and I when I lived in Grand Junction, I was selling Harleys there, out of Grand Junction Harley, and that was kind of my thing. I got recruited to come back, to Chicago. That's why I left Colorado, was to work for Harley Davidson, to go into their, into their dealership program as financial operations. And I took that job, of course, and moved from my favorite state, which is Colorado, back to Illinois, which is where I grew up, to pursue, a career with the mother company, the one and only Harley Davidson. I soon realized that, after 6 or 7 years of doing that, that I'd kind of lost my passion for motorcycling, and it kind of something that I really enjoyed at first going into it, and something that I was really passionate about. it was tough for me. It was seasonal. It was a different crowd of people than I was used to dealing with, on a regular basis, kind of, to say that politely. It was just a different kind of thing, so that's, basically what I've done. I've kind of done sales my whole life.
What would you say is your specialty within sales? Like, what are you really good at? Are you good at the prospecting? Are you good at the actual presentation, the closing? What's your
Sure.
specialty?
Well, when you talk to that other recruiter, I'm sure that he mentioned to you that it's not an easy thing. It's a very difficult, in my opinion, it's the most difficult form of sales, because you have to close twice. And no other form of sales do you have to close the item and the person buying the item. Do you see what I'm saying?
But you're saying your specialty is being a recruiter, a sales recruiter?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that my specialty, I think, is prospecting and relationship building. Okay. And kind of, operational sales. Mm-hmm. That's kind of been what I've done, my whole life.
And by operational sales, you mean like operating a sales team, prospecting, canvassing,
standard operating procedures, financial operations as far as, balancing books, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So selling retail finance, loans, terms, that sort of things, payments, all that goody stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, where do you want to be in this? Do you want to be on the recruiting side where you're recruiting salespeople to sell for companies? Do you want to actually be doing the selling yourself and be the representative out there working for companies? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing my own kind of company and maybe eventually bringing on guys, that have a lot of drive and that want to sell onto a potential sales team.
Okay.
And do something like that.
So what would your company be? Would it be you selling a product that you were contracted by a company to sell? Would that be what your company would be?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're doing now, or I say we. That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm asking you the questions to kind of narrow down a couple things that I see happening here in the industry in Colorado with salespeople. Is there's going to be a couple categories that you're going to fall into, or that the industry, and by the industry meaning dispensaries and those hiring people, are going to want to push you into, and that's going to be the street beaten salesperson. There's a lot of opportunity if you have basically nothing to offer in life, and basically somebody wants to let you work for free using their name to see if you can sell their product. There's a lot of opportunities for that. So there's going to be companies coming out of the woodwork. If you say, hey, I'm a sales guy, you will have 1,000 companies that will say, hey, come sell for me, because what the offer is basically come work for free, and if you're able to sell my product, I'll give you a small percentage in return. That's what I'm going to say you should avoid, obviously, is being that type of salesperson. But that's going to be the biggest opportunity that you will encounter. Most everybody you speak to will say, oh, great, you're a salesperson? Hey, why don't you come be a salesperson for my company? Here's what I'm offering you. I'm offering you to come work for free, and if you are lucky enough to sell my product, I will give you a tiny percentage in return, what we'll call commission. That's the common trap, and I would say that's the trap of the inexperienced and really the just non-salesperson, and the person who has, like I said, nothing else in life to offer, and that's where you kind of end up. You end up just doing that. The better way to go about it would be to take your higher end clients and figure out what product crosses state lines in a sense that what can you sell from Illinois but still reach out to people in Oregon and Washington and Colorado and California and, you know, New York or all the other emerging markets? What can you sell without it being a barrier to state lines? So, well, you can't sell cannabis, obviously, because that's a state specific.
I can't sell any product at all. And that's why I've been, you know, doing like commercial, you know, extraction units, trimming units, you know, curing units. You know, I've been trying to, exactly like you said, you know, trying to find products that I can move across state lines. I have a meeting with Roger Collier next week to potentially work for him, you know, moving his Collier brand fertilizers and various products that he has through his company and see if we can, you know, work something out. But yeah, you're exactly right. You know, I can't move anything, you know, that is illegal to move across state lines. So yeah, you know, I've even tried, I'm trying to reach out to vape companies, e-nail companies, because dabs are starting to catch on out here. You know, more and more people are doing it and more people are interested in e-nails and, you know, wax pens and things like that.
So here's an idea for you, just kind of off the cuff, just something that floated through my mind. Since you mentioned you were kind of a recruiter and you mentioned you're looking to sell and you mentioned, you know, all these different variables, what about niching yourself into a very specific type of salesperson where what you're doing is kind of playing the national connection game for individual sales teams at a company. So let's say a company, a vape company or whatever, they have a sales team of 3, 4, 5 guys or whatever. And instead of you just joining their sales team or being some aspect of their sales team, what if you play a hierarchy role where you are specifically out there curating specific clients to arrange meetings with their salespeople? So instead of you just being a representative of the product and just trying to sell the product, maybe you can assist sales teams get specific higher clients in other states and kind of play like a mid-level person. And that way you can manage multiple clients where you don't get locked into one client, where you could have multiple kind of higher end clients that are your clients, where you're working to make connections. Let's say, you know, a company in Colorado wants to reach out to a company in Washington under these specific guidelines to start to make relations. They have a sales team, but they don't really have a specialized person to do that type of cross state line, research and connection, kind of the salesperson for the salesperson. Maybe there's something there where you can kind of work in the aspect of recruiting and sales with the location where you are, multiple states, and put together a business model that's just, very specific to something that you can work out. I don't know. I'm just that's a great point. That's a really good idea as well. Kind of play off the whole recruiting thing. I really like that idea. Yeah, exactly. Try and connect the dots. Or, like a company in Colorado is wanting to start sales in Washington. They need to start a sales base. Maybe you could be that connecting person. You could start to recruit the first salespeople for that company, as well as maybe start to develop those first contacts and kind of be like the first man on the scene, the first crime scene investigator, where you're the first guy called when a company wants to expand into a new market space outside of its geographical region. You can be the first guy to kind of throw the stake down that says, okay, here's the flag we're planting. Let me start to make some initial phone calls and be kind of the first representative. And then I will help transition those first salespeople into this location. And then once that sales team is in place, then I'll back out and then move to another area or something. Yeah, I'm sure there's a whole variety of different types of models you could piece together to find something that's unique and specific, but definitely not in the herd of where somebody can categorize you. Because as soon as somebody can categorize you, then you're competing with whatever the going rate is, right? Whatever the wage is for those other people. So try to avoid being categorized. Don't let somebody say, "Oh, you're a sales guy." Well, the average rate in our state's $14.50 an hour, and here's how it works. And because as soon as you do that, then you're on their terms.
That's a great point. That's a really good idea as well. You know, don't become one of the salmon. Try to stand out a little bit instead of you necessarily making the connection yourself. Maybe represent a group of people who make the representation themselves.
Right. Exactly. Oh, right. Because I was talking about being defined by category. That as soon as whoever you're talking to is able to define you in a category, they're able to put the average salary or average wage on that. So if you just simply present yourself as, hey, I'm a salesperson looking to sell your product, then all of a sudden you've been categorized on what the standard salesperson in the cannabis industry as a sales representative is making and how that terms of employment operates. So I guess, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, was just try to, define yourself in such a way that it stands out, that somebody can't classify you as, oh, there's somebody else like this or somebody else like that. And definitely don't sell somebody else's products I guess that's the main thing I've learned in my own personal experience of working for companies and trying to run my own companies is, don't try to sell somebody else's product if you're not part of that company. And I've learned that biggest lesson is in sponsorship and advertising is really having to learn the difference between being an advertiser versus being a salesperson. You know, is a big difference and distinction. And if you're not going to be part of the company, don't do a quasi I'll sell your product thing. It just won't work out. It'll never work out. You'll always be on the losing end of it. Nobody will ever be happy. Sure. So the way to avoid it, if you're not going to be part of the company, is to sell something that's not directly the product itself, because then you're not responsible as being an internal salesperson. You know, you're not held to those standards as, you know, what would I expect from somebody if I hired them on as a salesperson versus what would I expect of a specific type of person doing a specific role that's outside the bounds of what's normal, but yet is going to play a key strategic part into the business model. That seems like a better proposition, at least for making money and being respected at the end of the day.
Sure.
You know, take whatever background you have. You know, that's the best way to go about it. I do this other side business of getting people badged here in Colorado to work in the industry. And I run into people that want to work in the industry but they're not coming from a background of something they can offer. You know, it's like, hey, sure, I want to be a grower. Well, are you a grower? No, I don't know anything about growing. Well, how are you going to be a grower? You know, it's like, it's like, come from what you're doing. And that's the way you break into the industry. Don't try to break into the industry doing something where you don't come from. So,
exactly.
Do it, man. Make the leap. Jump in. You take all that fear, throw it aside. I mean, what do you have to lose at this point, right?
Yeah, not a whole lot. You know, I'm just the only thing that concerns me again is it's Illinois, man. They're still throwing people in jail.
Well, for what? Like for having possession, right?
No, not as much. But it's for other things like, you know, cultivation. Is certainly a huge no here.
Yeah, for all that. Yeah, for all product related stuff. But for your skills, you're avoiding all that by simply just, you know, focusing on something that's not the product itself.
Sure. No, I like it. You know, I think it's a good idea. I think that's a good way moving forward. I think that's how it should be handled. Instead of being the one doing all, you know, ground pounding salesman, kind of represent a group of people who do that. You know, what do you suppose would be a fair retainer for someone offering services like that?
I don't know, because I have not really seen that type of job. I haven't been approached by anybody doing that type of job, and I haven't really seen it. So I don't know that, but forget about recruiting, because I don't know anything about recruiting. But for any other job, I would say enough money to make somebody take a second thought. So we're talking at least in the hundreds of dollars, right? And probably approaching
the thousands, maybe not into the thousands, but maybe approaching, depends on what specific company it is or what the potential job is. I would say enough money where you're going to flush out all the wannabes and nobodies, all the people who basically have no company. Somebody that doesn't really have a company and has no resources and has no infrastructure, there's no way in hell somebody's going to be able to afford paying a retainer to acquire a sales, consultant or whatever in that aspect. So if you're approached by somebody, it's hard to really do diligence on the spot and really vet somebody out of who they are. And, are they just an individual trying to get free work out of somebody? Like, hey, sure, come be my salesperson, come sell my product.
Right,
Or are they a real company? And to me, the best way to vet out real versus fake is to make somebody pay money. I don't know exactly how much, but I would say $50 is not going to cut it.
Right.
Because $50 is too easy for somebody to take a gamble on. And, even a few $100s can be, if I thought I could get you to come work for a month for free and maybe sell a few $1,000s of my product, I might write you a check for a couple $100s, but what you're trying to do is avoid that situation. You're trying to you're trying to make it go like, what? You want me to put $1,000 on to have you come sell? Oh, fuck that. It's like, that's the kind of person you want to make run away from you. Because that's the kind of person you would ultimately find out is not a real company. You would ultimately find out they have no infrastructure to assist your sales. They have nothing behind what you're doing, so they're setting you up for failure as the salesperson.
Right.
So by
making you look foolish.
Right, exactly, and wasting your time, and and ultimately not making you any money. A great salesperson still needs infrastructure, still needs support from a company.
It still needs a system, a point. It still needs a point of contact.
Right.
It still needs a product.
Here's the thing: if you're going to do 100% of all the sales work, you might as well own 100% of the company and just sell your own product. So if you're gonna sell yourself out as sales to somebody else, then you kind of got to get a retainer because you're kind of doing all the work. I mean, not all the work, because what you're expecting is that if somebody's willing to give you $1,000 retainer, then maybe they're also the type of company that has an infrastructure in place to assist in prospecting, assist in marketing, assist in the customer fulfillment, assist in the administrative and clerical stuff that needs to be done in sales. If they're willing to cut you a check for $1,000, then they're maybe the real kind of company that can support a real sales process. I don't know how much that is, but I would say it has to be enough money to vet out all the non-people.
Sure. I agree. No, that's a good idea. Say something like, I will work my company will represent your brand, but, we expect, $1,000 retainer up front for the next, 90 days of our service.
Yeah, and what you do is you call it a retainer to cover administrative costs, because as a salesperson, you're going to explain to that company the reason they're outsourcing with you is because you're assuming all of that sales process cost and expense. Like, prospecting is not cheap. It's time consuming. It doesn't have any immediate monetary benefit, but you're assuming all of that. So the retainer is not simply saying pay me up front. It's simply saying, like a lawyer that says there's going to be expenses incurred in this building stage of getting up to a sales process that's flowing of income and revenue. But until we get there, I'm not footing the bill. You're hiring me, which means you put up the expenses. If I'm the contractor and you want me to come in and put in a new window, I have to make a choice. Do I buy the window and then invoice you for it? Or do I make you give me money, go buy the window, and then invoice you for my labor? It's like those are the types of decisions that sometimes can make and break a company. And I'm not looking at it as a business, like as like, hey, what's the best way to manage your business? I'm looking at it as a pure vetting mechanism, that using a retainer is just a way to do quick due diligence of who you're interacting with. You know,
agreed.
as far as managerial goes, that's a whole different question usually. But from just a vetting standpoint, make somebody pay for your services. And it sounds contradictory because they go, well, salespeople work on commission. Yeah, but not initially, not for free up front. You know, I'm not, to get to that first sale requires expenses and time, and I'm not an unpaid consultant. You know, you pay me to go out and make the sale, not I go make the sale and then pay you the majority of the money. That's backwards. If I'm going out and doing all the work, then how about I take most of the money? Well, typically salespeople take the smaller percentage because the assumption is the company is providing the infrastructure that assists in that sales process. A lot of questions, but definitely go with the recruiting angle because a lot of people need jobs, and I don't know, selling individual products. Sometimes you might as well just go work for a company. If ultimately you're just going to represent one product, you might as well just go work for that company. But if you're going to be independent and kind of, you know, play the entrepreneurial game, you might have to say, you know, I'm not going to sell your product, but maybe I will help recruit salespeople, or what I'll do is I'll be the first salesperson of a developing sales team for 3 months. And in the process of me developing the sales process and those first initial contacts, I'm also assisting in the recruiting of people. And maybe you can make money on both ends doing that. Maybe, you know, find some multiple streams of revenue, get a recruiting stream.
That's really clever thinking there, man.
Well,
I like that.
Jump in and let me know. Because if it works and you make any money, then I'll expect you to do some advertising or something with the show, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be the first place for sure, man.
In all seriousness, I think the employment issue is a big issue in this industry. I've been talking about it with dispensary owners and business owners of what real opportunity exists in the industry, because I know everybody who wants to be in the industry wants to be there out of some type of passion. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's disimpassioned about cannabis that's working in the industry.
Sure.
But
yeah, right.
But what real opportunity? Because if all you have to offer is $12.50 an hour for the next 20, you know, it's like what real opportunity? Right. I mean, not only are you never going to get the right people, but ultimately those who want it to be in the industry are going to have to leave because minimum wage is just not. It's not affordable once you get out of your 20s and once you want to have a family and buy a
exactly.
house.
I mean, that's where I could never go back to that. I mean, I could never go back to minimum wage.
Well, I mean, you say that,
that,
but at the same time, you need to be prepared to go back to minimum wage, because if you say I could never go back to minimum wage, you have to say it with the conviction of that's what I'm fighting to go away from. But you have to also have the humility to say, I'm willing to work for minimum wage if it's a stepping stone to a bigger goal, right? It's like,
agreed.
I'm willing to work minimum wage if it's a pass through to something, but I refuse to work minimum wage if that's the career you're offering me, you know?
Right.
Exactly. So, but that's a big question. So maybe you can be the guy who helps develop careers in the cannabis industry where you're not just simply staffing people, finding the next bud tender job for somebody, but maybe you can actually help dispensaries. Maybe that can be the consulting angle, is that you actually help develop real opportunities. So an organization that's, you know, a fairly mid-sized to large organization that has multi-levels of managers and employees and has different departments, maybe they'll need corporate structure. They're going to need somebody to help develop real roles of employment. Like, what do you do with somebody for a 20, 30 year career? You know, sure, you hired them as a bud tender at $12.50 an hour, but do you want to keep this person through the lifetime of your company? Then where are they going to go through the next 20, 30 years of their life? Maybe you can help be that person who develops career roles, not just for the client, but maybe for the company also. You can help companies work out that issue of, you know, I want to retain people, but I don't know what kind of jobs to give them. I don't know where the money comes from. I don't know, you know, those questions.
Yeah, no, that's all. It's really good.
Yeah, you know, take any or all of those ideas for free.
Or none of them.
No, man, I definitely like those. Very good stuff. Definitely like that idea. And I think there is a need for that. Obviously I see a few people that are pretty active, like Vankst and Miss Mary and
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen all those guys.
Yeah, those are
probably
all the big names, the ones making a name for themselves, and they will probably be the ones doing what I'm talking about. Is they will probably be the ones who will be in the ears of all the CEOs of the big dispensaries and the big companies who are there talking about careers and lifetime employment of employees. I mean, and right now we're in the stage of growth where everybody's just focused on, how do I fill this position? How do I get growers and bud tenders? And, I need to fill a position. But eventually the industry is going to have to mature where we look at, well, how do I now keep my company running for the next 50 years and develop people throughout 10, 20, 30-year careers? And, how do I do that? So we're going to need consultants. And if you got the background in recruiting and sales and you have that interest in kind of upper level management and corporate structure, you might be able to really make a name for yourself. And maybe that's where your money comes from is being able to charge those high consulting fees to have you and your small team go into a dispensary and rewrite a whole career employment guide or something for a company or, work.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, if that one works, I want 10%. The other ones are for free, but if that one works, I want 10%.
Right on, man.
No. Ideas, you got to be a factory, not a warehouse, right? It's like ideas, you got to be a factory. You just got to keep generating them, right? Just keep generating them.
Would it be possible for us to maybe chat again?
Yeah, absolutely. In a few weeks, why don't we do a more formalized interview and talk about your compassionate care program and something that's a little more focused specifically on that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I just want to be a part of it. And I enjoyed our conversation here, and thank you for sharing, all your ideas and insight. That's amazing, and and I really do appreciate that. So
well, excellent. Well, I work in what I can work in, regardless of how formally structured it is or not. If I think there's some quality content that's being talked about or something with a context that somebody else can learn from, I'll plug it into the show with no introduction, with an introduction, just whatever works, so, whatever works. Sure. I'll just plug it in. So, and then you develop your thoughts and ideas on your business and where you're going to go with it. And then let's take like a month or so and talk about a focused something that you're going to do or something that you want to do.
I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
All right, man. Very good. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for listening. Tell other people to listen if you can. Cool.
Sounds good, man. Like I said, I really appreciate you taking time and chatting today, and I look forward to the podcast.
Absolutely. Stay in touch.
All righty, thanks.
All right. Have a good weekend. Bye.
You too.
There you go, Cannapreneurs. Thank you for joining us for another show. We'll be back next week talking to more Cannapreneurs, bringing their stories to you. Follow us after the shows on all the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Massroots, even Twitter, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.